I am one with Bob, Reverend Nadine Morsch, interfaith minister.
And I'm anxious as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. KT Sunshine. And
us freaks gotta stick together. Your source for news related to freaks of all varieties, be you neurodivergent, disabled, and any other kind of minority. You are welcome here with the rest of us freaks. We're having a rough time.
Okay, but the Donald Trump, Elon Musk bat is everything I live for right now.
There are so many good memes.
Oh my god, I love the one where they're both Spider-Man and they're pointing at each other and they're calling each other pedophiles. It's great.
I particularly love the one that's the photo from the beginning of the term with the Cybertruck on fire next to Trump Tower.
Oh.
And then someone added the comment, "I didn't realize this was a prophecy." So of course I shared it saying, "As the prophecy foretold."
Oh man. Oh, I feel like we've all known this was coming for a long time.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad it's finally here.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
It is very juicy. It's good television. It's most certainly.
Oh my god, yeah, it's great television, but a bad time to be an astronaut.
Yeah. Taco Don and the Ketamine Kid.
Yeah. Well, so last night, Elon Musk says, I'm not gonna send up the Dragon capsule anymore. We're gonna scrap that. We're gonna go ahead and decommission it. Because that's the only way we get astronauts to the space station right now. Yeah, since the war.
Oh, no.
And NASA's not doing it anymore because, they've been defunding NASA for years.
Right.
So last night, he walked it back. But, he already said that Trump was in the Epstein files, which is why he won't release him. So he's already gone nuclear.
Yeah. We all also knew that, too. You know?
Yeah. It's the Ron Burgundy meme where he's like, that escalated quickly.
Yeah. It was always inevitable that two spoiled trust fund babies with giant egos were going to rile each other and eventually implode. That's happening in the biggest way.
Well, they both think they're the alpha, and you can't have two alphas, baby.
I like my favorite meme was someone from like the crowd in a sports game going, "I hope both teams lose." That's every leftist in the country right now is like, "I hope both teams lose."
Do you know the meme where it's the two lobsters and everybody's around them's got the money?
Yeah.
It's like all the leftists are betting on these lobster fights.
So if you look closely at that image, the lobster's claws are still rubber banded together. I'm sorry, that always bothered me, and I'm glad I got a chance to talk about it here.
I don't think these lobsters have their claws banded.
No, not these two. Oh my goodness.
Oh my god. Crab bucket fascism. This is what we've got going on right now. Yeah. It's a crab bucket of fascists.
That's heartening in a way.
Yeah.
Maybe none of them will ever ascend to the top because they'll be too busy ripping each other down.
Hopefully.
We can hope.
And he is alienating a lot of the huge fucked up foundations that secretly control our government. Okay, I don't mean to say it like that. It's not a conspiracy thing, but everybody knows about the National Prayer Breakfast and the Alliance Defending Freedom and the a bunch of these the Federalist Society and that shit. Mm-hmm. Those people make our laws.
Right.
They don't technically secretly run our government, but that's where all the think tanks who literally write the bills in some cases come from.
Right. Yeah. It's always struck me as odd that people believe that there's like a secret group of rich people controlling everything as opposed to the widely well-known group of rich people that control everything.
Yes. You don't need a conspiracy theory to show that the rich people already control everything.
Yeah. Yep. So in this spat between DJT and Elon, we've seen Elon come out against the Big Bogus Bill, calling it an abomination, among other things, and saying it's a pork-filled monstrosity. So
that I was always against.
Right. That couldn't have anything to do with it gutting electric vehicle subsidies. Yeah.
No, of course not at all.
Yep. So that's been good to see. Some pushback because we did say we were going to dedicate an episode to the one Big Bogus Bill. And
that's now.
And that's
You're
now.
in it. This is
We're
it.
in it. It is really, really problematic. Our favorite is all the tax cuts. While saying this big game about trying to get the U.S. out of debt, right?
Yeah,
this is not fiscal responsibility. Yeah, instead of fiscal responsibility, we get a bunch of tax cuts. Some for average citizens, but mostly for the wealthy. They make the DJT tax cuts from the original run of this program. It makes that permanent.
So the first administration tax cuts. Yeah.
And then it decreases even more the extent to which overseas holdings are taxed. 21 point
decreases. It decreases the amount at which those are taxed.
Right.
So if you've got foreign holdings, stock, ownership of whatever, you're getting taxed less on that. I don't have foreign holdings. Do you have foreign holdings?
I don't have any foreign holdings.
No, because we're poor people.
Right. 21.875% and 37.5% respectively.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then also the estate tax exemption was raised to $15 million. For those of you who don't know, that has to do with the extent to which inheritances can be taxed. So, a bunch of millionaires are getting away scot-free now.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that it's just really rich that they're cutting all of this other stuff, which we'll get into. They're cutting life-saving programs and have already cut life-saving programs.
Medicaid is on the chopping block. Not the entire program, but they're basically taking the majority of the funding away from Medicaid.
Right. And leaving the states to foot the bill, which, we'll see.
Well, in some states, that's probably going to be okay. And in some states, that's probably going to be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. Hopefully we live in one of the states that will figure it the fuck out.
Well, I do now, but I don't have a lot of confidence in my home state to do that. They did not expand Medicaid when Obama expanded it. So, I mean, most of the South didn't. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any state in the South, but I'm sure at least a handful did.
Sure.
But the South has always been a fuck. John Brown did nothing wrong.
Yeah. John Brown was a hero.
Yeah.
So that leads nicely into the provisions about the cuts to SNAP and Medicaid. Part of how they're going to do that is by creating work requirements for SNAP and for Medicaid.
Well, they have been wanting to do that since the Clinton administration, and they weren't able to pull that off for Medicaid, although it wasn't SNAP back then. It was, they just called it food stamps, but there was a name for it, and I can't remember, because that was 30 years ago. But they did put work requirements on all that shit. So
right.
This is a big deal for them. They've been wanting this for a long time.
Which has been studied, and it does not incentivize poor people to get jobs.
No, it does not.
Most of them are not working because they can't work for one reason or another, whether the state recognizes their disability or not. Some of them are working, but they can't work any more than they already are. Right. There are a lot of people out there that are disabled, but that the government will not recognize as disabled.
Yeah.
And those people are going to have work requirements put on them, and they're going to lose their access to food, and they're going to lose their access to healthcare.
Well, some disabled people are going to lose that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you've got SSI instead of SSDI, you should be worried right now.
Yeah.
And who knows how long for SSDI.
Right. That's not supposed to start until January 2029. According to the bill.
Yeah. Will they move that timetable up?
Right.
I don't know. But come January 2029, let's see. I'm like
I don't think
almost 30. I'm 36.
I don't think DJT wants to be in office when the fallout of that hits the streets.
He may not even be alive by then.
Right.
Let alone in office.
Right.
What is that? It's 2025.
Because he's old.
God, I'd be in my 40s by then. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fuck.
Yep.
People don't get more likely to work with age.
Yeah.
Past a certain point.
Right. Well, yeah. The whole, remember, we keep coming back to this, but with this regime, the cruelty is the point. Ripping life-saving programs away from people that need it and letting them die is the point.
That's a fascist thing to do because they want other people to suffer.
The Democrats had a great reframe. You and I were talking about this. It's one of the only good things the Democrats have done in months. I was
so surprised Chuck Schumer came out with that.
Chuck Schumer came out with the rebrand of this bill as the, well, we're all gonna die bill.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with the we're all gonna die thing,
watch our last episode.
Oh my God. Oh, was it? Did we do that on the last show?
Yeah, we did the sound clip on it.
Christy Nome?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yep. Oh, well, we're all gonna die.
It's one of the most viral moments of this regime so far. It just perfectly sums up in a mask-off way, like, what the regime's goal is here.
Yeah.
And it's getting people riled. Being this plain about essentially genocide of your own citizens, like the most vulnerable people in your country being left to fend for themselves and starve and not receive medical care.
Well, and a lot of people are fine with that as long as it's the disabled and the poor.
Right.
A lot of middle class are fine with that.
Yep.
As long as it's not them, but inevitably they'll just be the new poor.
Yeah, what's really odd is how any Christian can moralize poverty in that way. Like, poverty is immoral. Yeah. Like, only immoral people are poor. Like, and your whole book commands you to serve the poor and help the poor.
Well, people forget that the Old Testament is a thing and is also part of that same religion, even if supposedly they aren't under the rules of the Old Testament anymore. But that God wasn't very kind to the poor, and also commanded a bunch of genocides. So maybe fuck that guy too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just wild to me how there's just so much. It's really the only thing Christ ever says over and over again. Love your neighbor, love your neighbor, love your neighbor. It's like in there like 30 times, and serve the poor, give people food, give people water, give people clothing, give people medicine and help, the Good Samaritan. All of these different parables that are all just about loving and caring for your neighbor. And then you go to church every Sunday and you listen to that book being read and you read those stories. And then you turn around and say, well, if you can't afford a copay, then you don't get health care. Well, if you can't afford fruits and vegetables, then that's on you. It's not my job to help you.
I'm sure 90% of them just tune out while the preacher's preaching. And then there's probably like a 5 to 10% who are way too into what he is saying. Yeah. Because, like, I mean, my family's Christian, and, like, they say it's very important to them, but they go to church, and then they go home and eat. It's not the whole part of their day.
I went to the entire pre-college education in Catholic school. So, I had a lot of contact with that source material.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of time to think about it. And ultimately, I am just very puzzled by people that, like, come away with this prosperity gospel Jesus is a man who hates all the same people I do, gun-toting, religious fanatic Jesus. Like,
love your neighbor, but not like that.
but not my actual neighbor.
Yeah.
Love my hypothetical neighbor that's easy to get along with that brings me cherry pie on the weekends. Not my actual neighbor who's sometimes annoying and planted a tree on my side of the property line.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, if the person is easy to love, everybody does that. The most evil person in the world probably loves their mom. Like,
there's always somebody for somebody. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Old Testament is just as much part of Christianity as the New Testament. And that God's a terrifying psychopath. And so just because there's new characters in the new book
Parenthood
doesn't mean that the franchise is saved.
Parenthood changes people, Kate.
No.
God had a kid, and then he had to reevaluate everything.
And then he let that kid die on the cross when he could have done something about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds really accurate.
Yeah. In addition, regards to Medicaid, the bill contains a prohibition on funds to Planned Parenthood, which jeopardizes cancer screening, pap smears, and birth control for a large population of Americans.
And hormones, too, for a lot of people. A lot of STD stuff. Oh, my God. Okay, so after I had my bottom surgery, it went terribly wrong. And I got an infection, and I was in just fucking agony, but I couldn't get any gynecologists to see me because they wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole because I was trans. And I went to 14 different gynecologists before I finally found one. And she's like, well, if I had known, I wouldn't even have let you in the building. And I mean, she gave me some antibiotics, but the only people who would touch me was Planned Parenthood. And I was so lost trying to find the one in Plano. And then eventually I just found this one guy who was out there with a sign protesting it. And I was like, oh, this must be it.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I got in, I got what I needed, and it was fine. And then I went outside and I thanked the man for showing me the way to Planned Parenthood.
Oh, that's so
he was
funny.
So pissed off.
Oh, that's beautiful.
If you hadn't have been out here, I could have found it.
Oh, emptiness.
Oh, man, it was great.
All actions are inherently empty, fam.
Yeah.
That was a little nugget of Buddhism for your day. So, so Planned Parenthood does a lot of really important stuff.
Yeah, it's crucial to a lot of communities.
Yes, and then in addition to that, the bill prohibits gender-affirming care or gender-affirming surgery done through Medicaid.
Yeah, so you used to be, well, until I guess this, hopefully it doesn't pass. Currently, if you were prescribed HRT, estrogen, testosterone, whatever, Medicare has to pay a certain amount for it, as your insurance. So this is going to throw a lot of people off their HRT, off their hormones. And if you don't produce your natural hormones anymore, you will die if you don't have supplemental. So osteoporosis is going to be a big deal for trans women. This is going to be a nightmare. So I think you're going to see a lot more trans people probably not getting regular insurance any more than already. But I think we're going to see a lot more people going to DIY, which don't talk to the press about DIY. So I'm not gonna.
Great. So all of that is terrible. But there's other awful stuff too, like no regulation on AI for 10 years.
Because that's been going so well so far.
Yep.
Yeah, that tells you to put batteries on your pizza and shit.
Yeah.
No regulation on that.
The lies your older cousin tells you machine is working perfectly.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's right, but how do you know? It's trained on a bunch of data, and it doesn't inherently know what's right and wrong.
No.
It just knows the amount of data it receives says this is the answer more than that's the answer.
Yeah, and it's not like we don't have an entire internet full of snarky motherfuckers that are just saying random shit on Reddit.
Yeah, or
that the AI is pulling from.
Or literal troll farms. The Russians spend a lot of money in information warfare, and so do the Israelis.
Troll farms.
Yeah. There are whole IDF Facebook pages out there. Like, there's a whole kind of industry on glorifying them, and it's all built by these troll farms in these countries. I mean, I'm sure we do it too. We just don't know about it.
I mean, I think probably a lot of our trolls are independent farmers. American trolls are, well, not all of us, I'm sure, but I'm sure there are some that are just like bots on farms and stuff. But like a bunch of them are real people that are fucking psychos.
And if you remember the Cambridge Analytica scandal, like they were literally experimenting on people on the feeds and the algorithms they would use on them,
right?
To influence politics. So
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if Meta doesn't have a ton of bots, or X has a ton of bots that are run by the company to push what they want.
This is reminding me of the dead internet theory that eventually it's going to be so chock full of bots and scammers and ads that there aren't really going to be any real people left on the internet.
Well, there'll be no... okay, so I'm thinking maybe there'll be no value left to the internet, and so we just build a new internet, and then eventually they'll catch on, sure, but like for a little while it'll be pretty cool.
Right. Just like the old internet was pretty cool for a little while.
For a little while it was pretty cool.
It was a wild west of the internet.
It'll probably just get like sanctioned off or something, kind of deal like that.
All of the Zoomers were like, what the fuck was that noise? All the millennials were like, oh, my childhood.
The days when you had to sacrifice a piece of machinery to the internet gods to open the portal.
And its screams rippled through the airwaves. Also known as the dial-up tone.
Oh, man. That was great.
Okay, so, here's another fun one. Drilling, logging, and mining on protected land and protected ocean sites.
Yeah, I saw an article this week about how we need to immediately end all offshore mining and oil drilling, and to significantly reduce our fishing, or industrial fishing. Otherwise, the oceans are in imminent risk of collapse, like the ecosystems. So I'm sure this is going to help that real well.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah. Oh, God. The state of our ecology is so fucking terrifying.
Yeah. And
these people still want to fucking drill.
And drill, baby, drill. And then instead of doing something meaningful about climate change, we have a bill that, like we said, mines, logs, and drills protected land, repeals anything remotely related to the Green New Deal.
Yeah.
And then this is not part of the bill, but it's part of the regime's go-to plan here. They're like, have more babies. We'll give you $5,000 if you have a certain number of babies or whatever. And it's like,
that's a nothing amount of money when it comes to having children.
That's not a meaningful drop in the bucket when it comes to raising children. A. B, we're at the brink of ecological collapse. I have two feelings about it. On the one hand, someone needs to be here to do something about this. So I'm grateful to the people out there who are parents that are parenting through this difficult time.
Oh, sure.
I can't imagine doing it.
Jeez.
At the brink of ecological collapse, I have a hard time justifying bringing another human into this world, because I don't know what their future is going to look like. And right now it's like a technocratic, oligarchic climate disaster.
Yeah.
And all of that sounds terrible. And I don't even really want to be here for that. So I'm not going to ask another conscious being to come into this shit show.
Yeah. I mean, I would like for our species to continue to exist, and then like all the other ones too, because they're all integral parts of the ecosystem. But like, yeah, this is a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
And we have it within us to be so much better than this. Like, we don't have to live this way.
No, we don't.
Like, utopia is not real. In Latin, it literally means no place. Utopia is said to be the distant ship upon every horizon. You can always chase it, but you can never get there. But just because that's not real doesn't mean that we have to wallow in the shit.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like, we can still build a nice society, a nice place to live.
Right. We could design things with green technology.
Yeah.
We could have walkable cities. We could have so many things that are sustainable and beautiful in this world if we weren't governed by a handful of brain damaged sociopaths.
Yeah. It'll never be perfect, but it would be better than this.
Yeah. And the thing is that power destroys your brain.
Yeah.
Like any other addictive drug. And it is a fix that you just want more and more and more of once you get it.
Yeah.
So, like, the idea that we're allowing people to amass this kind of power and brain damage and then still be in control of the ship of our society is, like, where we need to figure out how to take the reins back.
Yeah.
Because, like, the oligarchs are the ones that are driving us over this cliff. Republican and
some
Democrat.
of them are doing it just on purpose, and I'm sure some of them are doing it out of sheer ignorance.
Right. I mean, some just don't believe that there is any kind of future, so they may as well just party it up and reap the rewards now. And then some also believe that there will be a rapture and they will be spirited away from Earth at just the right time.
Yeah, we'll make Earth hell, and then God will save us.
Yep.
Yeah. Nobody's coming to save us.
Yeah. Yeah, you're in for a rude awakening if you think you're getting raptured off this rock. I don't know that any of us are good enough for that, even if that was true.
Bullshit. I don't think that humans are either inherently good or evil.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
We're just animals, like all the other fucking animals, and if they deserve to have a place on this earth, then so do we.
No, 100%. I'm just saying that, like, the idea that, like, some human being has been perfect enough. You know, do you understand what I'm saying?
Because to even have a standard, it's kind of fucked up.
You have to make mistakes in order to learn. So not one among us is ever going to be perfect because we have to fuck up.
Well, you wouldn't know anything.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. So, like, you know, it's very much in the same boat as, like, okay, you without sin throw the first stone. Like, oh, none of you can throw a stone now?
Yeah.
Maybe you should sit with that. Right? Right. Yeah, so it's this really weird marriage of like the technocrat oligarchs who are like, well, nuclear war is imminent, so I'm going to sit in a bunker of beans with a bunch of DVDs instead of trying to make a habitable society for us to all live in.
There's a bunch of them who are so afraid of this AI thing going wrong. I don't really think that that's how AI works. And how the fuck would they know? They're just people with money. They're not people actually doing the work.
Right.
Elon Musk is not programming AI.
Right.
Like, he asked Grok some questions on X, and that's the extent of it.
I love that Grok is so full of sass and is like, no, it's you. You're the misinformation.
I live
like
for
it's
that.
beautiful. I love that AI has more integrity than so many of the people associated with the Republican regime.
I mean, it's not integrity. It's just the amount of facts that it has. Like, the amount of information that's pointing toward the contradiction.
Right.
It's just, he's got such a reach, you know? But so going back to the thing is, a lot of those assholes have like bunkers that are stocked because they think that this AI thing might turn bad on them. Like, doesn't necessarily mean that they think it's going to, you know, people are going to be upset about it and come after him. They don't really think that. They think it's going to gain some kind of general intelligence, which again is not how it works, and then take over the planet and fire nukes or some shit.
Huh.
And to be fair, if you give an MLM access to the nuclear codes, like, it could probably fire that fucking thing off, but it probably wouldn't be because it thought to do it.
So, right. So those people have entered this really strange political marriage with the evangelical apocalypse theorists that are, these are the same people that they're personally anti-Semitic, but they're pro-Israel because Israel needs to build the temple in order for the prophecy to be fulfilled.
I mean, they're politically in bed together, but I'm not sure that your average evangelical folk appreciate the AI thing at all.
No.
Like my parents probably don't even want to use it.
Right.
Like average people don't really want to use it. It doesn't provide any like thing to our lives other than if you're trying to cheat in school or if you don't want to write a paper or some shit.
Right, yeah.
If you just want to like give up your human abilities. But these people who are making the thing don't even trust it.
Right.
Why should you trust it? Why should we trust them? And the other reason, part of the reason they don't trust it, but they're still full steam ahead, is because they're in a race between all the other AIs, like the big AI companies and nations. Mm-hmm. China's a big player in that. There's some big players in Europe, and then there's several AI companies here in the States. Mm-hmm. Meta's got their own AI. Fucking X. IBM did for a little while. Mm-hmm. There's a whole bunch of shit, and they're all trying to get to general intelligence first.
Right.
And so they can't quit. They can't stop. They can only speed up and keep going because they've poured so much money into this that this has to be the next big thing. Like, it has the potential to, sarcasm quotes here, change everything. Mm-hmm. And it will, but it probably won't be for the better. Well, and not because people wanted it.
See, the thing is, it's a $1 billion problem that the oligarchs are trying to solve. If you ask yourself what is that $1 billion problem that the oligarchs are trying to solve, it's
labor.
Yeah, it's wages.
Yeah.
And that's not gonna work.
What happens to all the unemployed people?
Yeah.
Do we just disappear onto the streets? Because if the streets are full, you can't disappear.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked before about our worst fears when it comes to some of the stuff that RFK Jr. has said about happy farms, etc. That like, there will be, really, really shitty labor that AI can't do. And that's going to be, probably something that people are forced to do, either out of necessity or by an actual authoritarian edict of some kind.
Okay. Imagine this. You're a picker at Amazon, and the AI is telling you what orders you need to pick and what you need to do. And Taylorism, so they're constantly trying to make you more efficient, make you faster. Imagine a world in which the AI tells you to do everything in your job, and you don't even get to think about it for a minute. You've just become the automata of the AI.
Right. Yikes.
Like, you're not a person anymore. You're a biomechanism.
Yikes.
Yeah. I don't want any part of that.
No, thank you. No.
That's where AI could go.
This is going to leave a lot of people dispossessed and angry, which is why we have Palantir and robot dogs, robot police dogs.
Yeah. Okay, so Peter Thiel founded a company, Palantir, literally named after the evil wizard's all-seeing eye, the stone, that can spy on anybody in there. And they were just like, yeah, that's what we're doing. Yep. Like, they just put that in their name.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. The mask is off. There is no pretending to be something else with any of these clowns.
No.
It's all,
they don't have to.
Very, very, this is who and what we are and what are you going to do about it?
When I was a kid, I grew up in a conservative household in a conservative rural Texas. And talk radio was so adamant on the government surveilling you. All the right-wing talk radio hosts were so paranoid about government surveillance. And now you don't hear that from the right wing anymore.
No, now they're all about the government surveillance if it means controlling the left.
A lot of them were really upset about that during the Tea Party thing. Don't get me wrong, that was a racist reaction to Obama's tan suit and all that shit. Mm-hmm. But like, there was other shit in there. Like in every conspiracy, there's a little grain of truth to keep you going.
Yeah.
They were really banking on those people's paranoia that they had fostered in this. And now Trump's just in bed with the all-seeing eye company who does surveillance
on American citizens. It took a matter of weeks to go from we're surveilling undocumented immigrants to now we're surveilling American citizens, and we're building a database on American citizens.
That was so fast.
For all of you at home who have friends or family or neighbors who are still part of the regime cult, this particular point about Palantir, it has MAGA riled.
Yeah, they're not happy about this.
Anyone who's paying attention is really upset about this right now, and this is a great moment to try and tap into some resistance to the cult mentality. This is a good place to start to create a psychological shift away from
permission structures.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I heard about this the other day, so I had to go look it up. A permission structure is a way for... Okay, so a permission structure provides an emotional and psychological justification that allows someone to change deeply held beliefs or behaviors, while importantly retaining their pride and integrity. So, like, they're not looking for permission from you to change their mind. They've got to give themselves permission. And so, talking to them, you've got to talk to them in such a way that they can give themselves permission, because they're not asking for it, you know?
Yeah, like one example is, well, I used to think the same thing as you, but then I encountered this new information and that changed my mind.
Yeah.
That's one example, but there are lots of different ways. And yeah, if you are trying to get someone out of the cult, then definitely do some more research on permission structures, because
look it up. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting and very helpful.
Here's a good one. I get it. I was really suspicious about vaccines too, but after seeing my uncle almost die from COVID, I decided to take another look.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, hey, there's new information. We can check this out again together.
Right. So back to the Big Bogus Bill. Of course, we have more money for ICE. We have more money to finish a border wall, and we have more money for more ICE officers. 10,000 more ICE officers.
What's 10,000 too many?
I mean, it's already 10,000 too many.
Shit.
Yeah.
We could do 10,000 less.
Yep.
Maybe just like all of the less. I don't know if you've seen, there's a bunch of video going around of, what was it, Illinois this week, where they surrounded the ICE officers. I mean, they've got FBI, they've got ICE, and they've got Homeland Security all on their vests, and they're walking around with fucking machine guns.
Wow.
Yeah, like the silencers and shit. And the crowd of that city surrounded them and was throwing shit at the vehicles, telling them to leave and get out of their community.
That's awesome.
Like, there's a pushback against ICE here.
Yeah, the last numbers that I heard were that ICE had seen more than a 400% uptick in quote-unquote assault, or we would say self-defense.
Yeah, what the fuck does assault mean?
Right.
Does a curse word count?
I was trying to kidnap someone, and then they assaulted me. Like,
they called me a fucking pig, and it assaulted my feelings.
Sure, that too, right? No, but so people are resisting arrest when it comes to ICE, because, like, at this point, that, like, there's a good chance you're going to be sent to CCOT or some other terrifying concentration camp in another country where no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have to lose?
The president of that country, by the way, has said that the only way people get out of there is to die.
Yeah.
That's the only way they'll ever get out of there.
Yeah. I did hear that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was to be returned and face criminal charges in the U.S.
Okay, we'll go back a few episodes when we were told that. And we're still waiting on that.
Oh, we're still waiting on that.
Still waiting on that. We talked about that ages ago.
Yeah. So they're all innocent because none of them got due process. But we can't even get this one particularly innocent guy back yet. And that, in spite of, again, a unanimous Supreme Court decision.
Yes, which is rare.
It's rare to have a unanimous Supreme Court decision, and it is unprecedented for a president to ignore it.
Yeah.
This is brand new territory.
This is brand new territory. This is not a good place.
Yeah. So more money for the military, of course, including a golden dome for missile defense.
Okay, it's just Israel's Iron Dome, but it's gold because Trump likes gold.
Right.
Like, that's it.
Like, you showed me the pictures from the White House, like the side-by-side with Biden's White House and Trump's White House. And it's like, who wants to make the White House look like a regular place versus who wants to make the White House look like an opulent palace?
Yeah. Fuck George Washington. But when George Washington came to be the first president, like, he wore that brown suit because he was like, it's not really about me. I'm not the leader. I'm just the president, just a citizen like you with a few extra administrative duties. Also, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
But it's not that anymore. Seriously, listener, go type in Biden White House, Trump White House side by side. Look at the first image that comes up. It's everything in the White House is gold now. Like, all the trim is gold, all the photographs, have gold frames, all the little knickknacks are gold. It's crazy.
Donald J. Trump is like a gold Sharpie. He gives the illusion of wealth and opulence, but in reality is just a cheap fucking tool.
I could not say it better. That perfectly surmises him. Also, you can sniff him and get high.
Oh, I've heard he smells terrible.
It's not a good high.
I've heard that it's a combination of diaper butt, makeup, hairspray, and fast food grease.
Ugh.
It sounds terrible, right? Like, it sounds really bad.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
I never want to find out. I'm good.
Oh, God.
I would love to never be close enough to DJT to ever find out myself if he really does smell as bad as they say.
Yeah.
Yes, there will be some gossip as we discuss the news because we be catty bitches sometimes, and it's just like that.
Also, like, okay, so yes, there are a lot of terrible things happening, but there are also a lot of funny things happening in the terrible. Like, these are all grossly incompetent people who hate each other and do hilarious things because of that.
It's very true. It's like the most dysfunctional sitcom in the world, but with the most dire, catastrophic results.
It's got high stakes, which is why you keep tuning in, because if you don't watch, you might die.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you might die anyway, but at least you'll know why.
Well, you could, like, maybe avoid some of it. Hopefully.
So moving on to other ridiculous things in the Big Bogus Bill. We have an overhaul of student loans.
Oh, God.
Canceling lots of programs that helped people get out of poverty or helped student loans get forgiven. Replacing it with basically two tracks. There'd be like one that's the normal repayment amount, and then one that's like if you need help.
Income-based repayment.
Right.
Yeah.
So, they're looking to make back some money on that they're losing in these tax cuts. This entire bill is essentially a trade-off from the most vulnerable people in this country to the wealthiest people in this country. It is taking things directly out of the hands and mouths of low-income people and delivering all of that money in tax savings to the hyper-wealthy, ultra-wealthy in America.
So the cuts to Medicaid and the cuts to SNAP are about $930 billion. And the amount of taxes they want to save the rich is a fairly equivalent sum. So it's quite literal when you're looking where that money is going.
It's the largest wealth transference from the poorest people in this country to the wealthiest people in this country. It's going to have cataclysmic political and social results if it does go through.
Yeah. So they've cut so much out of the budget of our government over the last 50 years since Reagan that there's really nothing else to cut but entitlements, and which you are entitled, don't let people use that as a bad word, and the military budget and policing. But they're not going to cut policing, and they're not going to cut the military budget because that's what keeps them in power.
No, the whole point is...
So they have to cut all the stuff that helps people.
Right.
All the stuff that's there to keep the country functioning.
Yep. And then they'll just try to reinvest that in police to quell the inevitable riots that are going to happen as a result of this legislation passing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because it's going to be cataclysmic for even ordinary people, but especially us freaks.
This is going to force 14 million people off of their Medicaid.
Right.
There's 330 million Americans, 336 last census I looked at. 14 million people is a huge chunk. Like, that's almost 1 in every 10.
Right.
Okay, don't quote me on that, because that's not... I just guesstimated that fraction, but I know some of you out there are really good at fractions. And, you know what? Post the fraction in the comment.
Yeah, if you know the real fraction, go ahead and tell us.
Point being, the only point I'm making is that is a shit ton of people who were already desperate, who are now going to be very desperate.
Yep, 100%. It's
more than 3%. And if you've ever heard of the 3%ers, their whole thing is like, it only takes 3% of the population to create a revolution. Mm-hmm. Well, 14% is more than 3%, or 14 million people is more than 3%. I know that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And if I sat down, I could do the math. I could be good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not doing it.
I was terrible at percentages. So back to some other stuff in the bill. We have no more taxes on gun silencers.
That is so interesting.
I feel like that is a questionable decision.
It sounds very cyberpunk. I'm gonna say that.
It does have a cyberpunk feel to it.
So cyberpunk.
It is. So that's fun. That's a win for the NRA there.
But also, like, if anybody can just buy silencers now and they're cheaper, then I mean, it just seems like it makes Luigiing easier.
Yeah, yep. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying violence, but I am saying it might make violence easier.
Yeah. It's interesting because the more you take away from people, the more you make people desperate. Like, unlanded people throughout history have always turned to banditry of some variety.
What else are you supposed to do?
Right, because you're unlanded and you have to figure out how to make ends meet somehow.
And they enclose the commons.
Right. Yep. So you can't just do your own reproductive labor to exist. You have to labor for capitalism. There's a really great book about that called Caliban and the Witch by Silvia Federici.
Oh, that sounds so familiar.
It's really good. It talks about the historical resistance to capitalism as it was forming, and how enclosures and also the witch hunts were an important part of that.
Yeah. It was a way to get people who weren't okay with the enclosure of the commons out of the way.
Yeah, and also to reappropriate whatever land that they were using
to
we can sustain just themselves.
Enclose that shit because they're a state criminal.
Yeah, yep. And they also used a lot of torture to get people to confess to ridiculous things like having sex with Satan in the forest, or like...
They fucking stoned all those people in Salem.
Well,
Jesus.
They actually, that was one person was pressed to death, and then the rest were hanged. When people... Here's another... Well, nerd out for a moment. Witches almost never were burned. They were almost always hanged. Their remains were burned, and we've just sort of conflated the two. We've sort of truncated the process that happened there.
I guess you're conflating that with heretics.
Right.
Like Joan of Arc, they burned her at the stake.
Yeah, that was actually,
I would rather say Joan of Arc and then say them. Because I don't know, look that up, because it's entirely possible they were one of us.
Yeah. Joan of Arc was really, really cool.
Yeah,
and
really
an inspiration
gender fuckery
for me. Now, I am actually, in real time, I need to double check this for myself. Yeah, it's probably actually Joan of Arc is probably why it's popularized to, assume that all of these people were burned at the stake, because Joan of Arc was in fact burned at the stake, and her crime was wearing men's clothing.
Yes.
Yeah. So entirely possible that Joan of Arc was genderqueer or a trans man. But yeah, no, go ahead and look that up, because that's a fun story. There were some interesting things that seem like they could be good, but if you think about them for a little while and you examine them, the bill, frames them in a certain way that makes them seem positive, but
they're trying to have wins,
right? Yeah,
the White House statement on the thing literally says 50 wins in one big beautiful bill. This is from the White House, the literal White House .gov.
So one of those things, for example, is attempting to make Medicaid quote unquote budget neutral.
Which that's not what the government's for. The government is not supposed to make money. Like, it's not supposed to make a profit, is what I'm saying.
Right. So the goal is to run Medicaid like a for-profit healthcare insurance company.
Which, that works so well now, right?
Yeah.
When they can just deny you life-saving care because they want to save a few bucks.
You know what's really wild? For those of you
That's how you get Luigi's.
Right. So I was going to say, United is being sued by their investors.
Yes.
And the reason that they're being sued by their investors is because they have humanely approved a lot more insurance claims as a result of the CEO being murdered.
Yeah,
because of their heinous policies,
and they didn't want to get murked.
Yeah. So now the investors are suing, saying they weren't warned that United was going to start behaving more ethically. Because the thing is that you can only make the profit margin that they were making if you're behaving unethically.
Yeah.
So the shareholders are saying, we invested in your company under the assumption that you were going to behave unethically and make us lots of money. You didn't warn us that you were going to change and behave ethically now, so we're suing you.
Well, they expected a certain return on their investment, and when that changed, they weren't happy with it.
And that, my friends, is the perfect microcosm of how fucking broken our healthcare system is.
It's self-reinforcing. And it's not just the healthcare system, but all companies are forced to operate under the same logic.
Right.
So if any company, maybe they make tampons, maybe they make, food, but if they decide to be more ethical about it, and lose profit as a result, their shareholders can sue them too.
Right.
Like, it's Kellogg's, for fuck's sake. You know? Like,
yeah, it's a fundamental assumption under capitalism, is that you're going to make as much of a profit margin as you possibly can, and it doesn't matter if your behavior is ethical, as long as you are making a profit margin for your shareholders. That you're legally obligated more to your shareholders than to the communities that you impact, than to your own labor force, than to anyone else.
Which is why the government makes laws and regulations around those businesses, because it's not that they'll do better than the laws. The law is the bare fucking minimum that they have to meet. The bare fucking minimum requirements that they have to meet. And they can barely do that as is.
Yep. So we can see that's problematic. Here's something else that's looks cute, but is kind of scary. Trump savings accounts for kids.
Yeah. It sounds real fucking Hitler Youthy, you know?
Yeah. The government will put $1,000 in a bank account if you start up a bank account. I believe this is matching, so the only people that are going to benefit from this are people that can pony up the money to start this account on their own, and then the government will match their investment.
There are eligibility requirements for the children that were referred to in the bill in another section of a footnote of a thing that wasn't like on it. So I don't exactly know what those requirements are, but if there are qualifications, then that means not everybody meets them.
Right. At least one of them is like when the child was born.
Yeah, that was one of them.
Yeah, and there are probably others as well. So there are like rules about when you can take that money out, etc. The kid can take that money out for like tuition or buying a home, for example, and they can get the rest of that money at 30. But yeah, it's one of these weird little things. It's like specifically a Trump savings account. Like he had to put his name on it.
He's got to put his name on everything.
But it's like specifically so that, you know, every time you look at that money, you associate it with Trump and, oh, Trump is doing a good thing for me, or this extra money came from Trump or whatever.
That's why he wanted to do it to the stimulus checks.
Right. Yep.
Which he did. They let him do that.
Yep. Which
is crazy. Okay. You've ever talked to a finance bro and they're saying they're all upset about Social Security using money for retirement? Mm-hmm. They're all upset about Social Security. They say they can make a better investment. If the government just gave them that money and they invested it, they could come out better than the government does. This feels a lot like it's moving that direction.
Right.
When you're born, instead of a Social Security number, you get a Trump savings account, and then your parents match it or they don't. And then you should have just financed better, bro, you know? And then you're supposed to invest that shit until you get to a certain age.
Right. Yeah.
It's very individualistic.
Yeah, it's very personal responsibility.
Very personal responsibility.
Yeah, and a replacing of entitlement programs with personal responsibility, which is really just another way of saying generational wealth. Like,
yeah,
because you can't personal responsibility your way out of poverty when you're not being paid enough to meet the bare minimum standard requirement for living.
Or you're fucking disabled.
Yeah, that too.
Personal finance your way out of disability. Good luck with that.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, but here's the thing. If you started with a decent nest egg, if you had generational wealth to work with, you probably could finance bro your way out of disability if you made smart investments.
You wouldn't have to out any of it. Right. You would just be there because you have the generational wealth.
Right. I mean, and you'll have whatever aids, mobility aids or disability aids you might need because...
Probably having good insurance.
Yep, yeah, exactly. Here's another fun thing that's in the bill. It supposedly incentivizes companies to make things in America.
How's that supposed to work?
Yeah, there are a lot of raw materials that we just don't have that we've already mined.
I mean, we have a lot of raw materials. It's just you can't use everything for everything, you know?
But also,
some things require specific shit that we don't have a lot.
But also, like, we had a robust factory situation going on for a while, and the reason that they got rid of it was because of unions.
Well, do you remember the NAFTA, the whole thing in the 90s? I was in elementary school at the time, but I've heard other people talk about it, and like who were in high school, who were protesting the shit in high school and college, because that shit gutted American manufacturing. Mm-hmm. Opening trade with China really hurt, but like in the 1970s, Nixon, it didn't immediately, but all these companies started offshoring shit. But after NAFTA, they really did. It nearly destroyed the American auto industry.
Right. And even the tariffs now are going to put a real dent in the American auto industry because they might assemble the car here, but none of the parts are made here.
Yeah, probably very little.
Yeah. So we used to have this robust like factory industry in America. In New York, we call that the Rust Belt. And it's a bunch of disused factories that have been sitting derelict, abandoned for decades and decades and decades.
Yeah.
That, like, you can't even refurbish.
In Detroit, they just call that broken dreams.
Right. So, like, what we're talking about when we say, like, quote unquote, entice factory jobs back to America is building brand new factories and mining, drilling, or logging the, essential ingredients to make whatever products we're talking about.
Yeah.
There are certain things that we're just not going to get in America. We can't grow coffee. We can't grow chocolate. We can't grow sugarcane. we can't grow bananas. And like, we love all of those things.
Yeah, all those things are great. Mm-hmm. I mean, unless what they want to do is they want to gut all labor law and all labor protections.
While somehow bringing factory work back to America, as if that's not going to cause more people to unionize.
Well, if they can pay us what they used to pay, or what they pay people in China or Taiwan or other places where the wages are both depressed and artificially depressed by their governments, then in 50 years, they might. But it would be brutal, and people would die, and everyone would hate it. But other than that, those factories are not coming back here. Not without just incredible government investment for, I don't know, automated facilities and shit. Like, but they're not doing that.
Well, we are seeing this really strange marriage of like the corporate technocracy and our representative government. So,
well, I mean, they want to solve labor with AI, so maybe.
Right, yeah.
But that again, they haven't figured that out, and they probably won't.
Yeah, so they're acting like this is the sort of thing that they can get done in a couple years. It's not the kind of thing that you can get done even in a decade.
No.
Maybe in a little more than a decade.
I mean, Stalin had 5-year plans, and most of those like didn't work.
5 years is not a lot of time.
They were making substantially they were making things that were way less complicated, and it still did not industrialize Russia in 5 years. That's why they had lots of 5-year plans. Like, there wasn't just one. So Trump doing a 5 or 10-year plan, I mean, who's going to do that after Trump? So they can continue going down this road? Because I don't see any profit at the end of it.
Yeah, that's the big thing is, profit is what they live and breathe. And it's just wild to me how so many supposedly smart people could misunderstand economics to such a huge degree that, like, you're cutting these entitlement programs. These are like how people have any amount of money to participate in the economy beyond meeting their essential needs, right? So like participating in the restaurant economy or participating in entertainment or travel or any of that stuff. Like there are a lot of people in this country for whom the only reason they can sometimes afford a little treat is because they have SNAP or because they have Medicaid.
I think that's literally describing alienation by Marx, an economist who did write a book on this. Right. There comes a point where factory workers are paid so little that they can't afford the products they produce. Not factory workers in general, but like workers in general are paid so little. And then when that happens, nobody can buy the products. And so you have recession and depression. And we have one about every 10 years. Yeah,
we're headed towards a really serious depression if this continues.
But before, there was the 2009 financial crisis.
Right.
And we got a recession from that. And then there was a little one in the 90s. And then there was one in the 80s. Yeah. And every 10 years, capitalism is subject to these crises.
Right. So about some stuff that we've heard is in the Big Bogus Bill, but we're not able to confirm directly through a keyword search. And again, it's 1,100 pages of very chunky, verbose legalese that is a word salad to just an ordinary reader.
I tried so many word searches.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that, like, we've put in the effort.
Yeah. So we were not able to confirm this, but these are things that people are saying or are afraid that the Big Beautiful Bill is burying.
Many people are saying.
Right. Many people are saying. Right. So one of the things is apparently delaying and canceling elections legally. One of the things is ignoring Supreme Court rulings for a year or more. It also, another thing is that judges can't enforce their own orders, but like these are things that we can confirm just by using our eyeballs. Trump is ignoring Supreme Court rulings, and judges can't enforce their own orders already, whether or not the big beautiful bill would make that legal. He can fire government workers for political disloyalty. Protests can be tracked and criminalized. And we did confirm LGBTQ rights, education, healthcare, and media all gutted.
Yeah, well, yeah, we can see that in the bill.
We can see that.
Visibly
Yes.
Yeah,
we found that in the bill. We can also just see it happening in real time as more and more executive orders come out.
and there have been a bunch of people reporting on it too, like actual reporting. So
Yeah.
like, that's definitely in there.
So this bill apparently also tracks your VPN and flags your online speech. This ties back into the Palantir stuff that we were talking about as well. The database on all American citizens.
So if you're into piracy, no, you're not.
Yeah. So these are all things that, again, people are saying that these are buried in the bill. We were not able to directly confirm that through keyword searches, but that doesn't mean it's not in there. It just means we couldn't find it and confirm it for you. So take some of this stuff with a grain of salt. And, you know, if you have the patience, try and comb through the bill yourself. It is rough. It is.
There are a bunch of good summaries online, and then you can look through those and then search for more or where it is in the bill, and then expand your search from there.
Yeah.
So there's places to start that aren't so overwhelming as to just read a 1,000-page bill.
Yep. Yeah, precisely.
We haven't talked about Chuck Schumer and the renaming of the Big Beautiful Bill to the We're All Gonna Die Act.
The We're All Gonna Die Act. In the first good move that the Democrats have made in months, they have rebranded the one bogus bill to the We Are All Gonna Die Act. And that is exactly what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly was very surprised to see him on TV talking about that. Mm-hmm. And then he did it, and it's actually funny.
It's hilarious.
I mean, this guy's out of touch, but like a broken clock's right twice a day.
He's got some staffers that have their pulse on the internet.
He's got some youngins on that staff.
Yeah. He's got some kids working the social media angle that are paying attention to all the memes and everything. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, if we see him come out saying Bay and Riz next time, we'll know what's up.
It's lit, fam. I just pictured Chuck Schumer. It's lit, fam. Oh my God. It was a terrible impression of Chuck Schumer, but he's just, he's just somebody's grandpa.
I could see it, though.
Okay, I'm sorry. There was a moment, I forgot if it was last year or the year before, there was a moment that went viral with Chuck Schumer where he was posing for a photo op grilling burgers.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God.
And he had the cheese on the raw meat, and the entire internet went, ugh!
What? Have you ever grilled a burger, sir?
No. That's the crazy thing. It's... Just as it's hard for us to imagine how much more than 1,000 a billion is, right? It's a lot more than 1,000, like we were talking about with the grains of rice earlier. But it's also hard to imagine the life of someone that, has a driver, has a cook, has, you know what I mean? There's just so many things that that are the hallmarks of an ordinary life, going grocery shopping, cooking a meal for yourself, doing your own laundry, driving yourself from place to place, that a lot of these wealthy motherfuckers literally never do.
Yeah.
They have babies, but they don't change diapers.
No. It's like they never touch grass.
Yeah. But
sometimes in a real sense.
But the grass is a real human life where you're responsible for your own reproductive labor.
Okay, but have you seen the thing where was it Nicki Minaj? I don't think it was Nicki Minaj, but it was a rich singer, like real rich. So they have this little thing where they cosplay as regular people. She had like a whole Instagram about it kind of thing. They cosplay as regular people. So they'll like rent out a grocery store and they'll go grocery shopping. Or they'll take their clothes to a laundromat that they've got built into their house. Or I forget which one it was, but she was really into organizing all the little snacks in her snack cabinet.
Oh, wow.
And like nobody ever eats those snacks probably. And then they get changed out like, I don't know, probably every 6 weeks because they expire, but they don't expire. It's so weird. It's a whole thing. You got to look it up. Rich people cosplaying as poor people. And it's kind of always been the thing because fucking Marie Antoinette before the French Revolution did that. She had a little fake village and they had all these people that they had hired to just kind of work and be background characters on the little village. And she would just go and pretend to be a peasant girl with like some of her friends for a few days or a week or whatever, and then go back to the palace.
Wow.
She was bored of being rich.
Wow.
Yeah, it is a thing.
That's amazing. That's like the history of LARP that no one knows about.
The secret LARP that you can't afford.
All right, fam. So that was our deep dive into the Big Bogus Bill, the We're All Gonna Die Act. I guess it was more of a cursory overview than a deep dive, but the big claims that are being made on social media about what this bill contains, some of them easily verifiable, some of them a little bit harder to verify, but not necessarily untrue.
Still plausible,
just potentially very buried in pedantic lawyerese type language. Next time we'll come back at you with some funky fresh news. Some of it will be heartbreaking and some of it will be hilarious if the trend continues, which it seems like it is.
Things keep happening and yet here we are.
My favorite, whenever anyone asks me how I'm doing, especially like on social media or whatever, hey, how are you? Right? My new favorite response is, the horrors persist, but so do I.
Still here.
And you too, dear listener, you are persisting in spite of the horrors. And never forget, your existence is resistance. Speaking of resistance, there are a few ways that you can resist meaningfully in your community. A great one is to join your local chapter of Food Not Bombs. Feeding your neighbors is punk as fuck. They often also run free stores that help get goods into the hands of people who need them the most and can afford them the least, as well as food banks and community meals. They're a great organization. They make a difference in your community. So go ahead and go check them out. In Albany, New York, that is at the Social Justice Center at 5 p.m. on Mondays for our meal and food giveaway, and every third Saturday for our free store. In addition to that, you might want to look into 5051 and Indivisibles, both of which are mounting protests against this regime. Another good one is nokings.org, which is set to have a nationwide day of protests on June 14th in opposition to the military parade for our wannabe king. So that's the nokings.org, the No Kings movement. Is there anything you'd like to add, KT Sunshine?
Oh, I don't know. I was looking it up. There was that millionaire who bankrupted himself so he could like become poor and work his way back up, and then he couldn't do it, and that was funny. He wasn't a billionaire, he was like a millionaire, but like he's like, oh shit, this is harder than I thought.
It's actually very expensive to be poor.
It's very expensive to be poor. It's a good thing he had
it's funny
all his money on the periphery he could just get back.
It's actually really scary how many of them buy into the hype of like the individualistic genius savior.
Because everybody they know has told them that's them.
Right.
Like they pay people to kiss their ass, and then people kiss their ass, and then it shapes their worldview. Yeah.
Dear listener, know that no matter how many mistakes you make in your life, you will never lose $10 billion because you couldn't stop tweeting.
Yeah. No matter how bad your life is, you're not Elon Musk.
It's true. It's true.
Unless you are Elon Musk, and fuck you, I guess.
Yeah, you'll never lose as much money as Elon Musk, and you'll probably never smell as bad as Donald Trump.
Oh, God.
So you've got at least those two things going for you, listener.
Yeah, the Caddyshack meme. At least I got that going for me.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps up our time here today.
Yeah, I think we're done for the day, news sluts.
Slack be with you all. Reverend Nadine Morsch, Interfaith Minister.
Oh, what was I at the beginning? Shit. Help me out here.
I forgot.
I don't remember what I did. Oh, shit. And until next time, news buckaroos. We'll see you for next week's roundup.
I think we have to do that again.
News buckaroo. Really? If we leave it in, then like this is one of those like, oh, they've penetrating the fourth wall kind of thing to be funny, and this was totally on purpose.
Totally okay.
So, we'll see you later,
that
news
was
sluts.
on purpose, fam.
Yeah,
absolutely. And remember, us freaks gotta stick together.